the VC ecosystem, how is it shaping up there? And how do you see the VC ecosystem shaping up in India in the last few years?
So the US ecosystem, because of its age, is a little bit more mature, right? And maturity is mainly a function of how many sort of up and down cycles you've gone through. Because I think once you go through this business, which is somewhat cyclic, you understand, what kinds of companies get built in up cycles and down cycles, and how these situations should be addressed. As an investor, when you start, you don't realize that suddenly things get hot, and so everything gets bid up. So the first instance of this was like the 2000s, when anything with the word internet in it was like crazily bid up, right? So the US luckily has gone through, I think, at least 3, if not 4 cycles. And still, there are a class of investors who are caught up in the hype and go through this. But the vast majority have remained disciplined, which I think is a good idea. But there's also a little bit to be said for going crazy, because, our business, the business of being a VC, is to capture outliers, capture something that is way out of the norm. And so it's rare to keep doing the same thing every year and expect to capture something that's an outlier. So you have to have the both the courage to say when to break the rules, and the discipline to stay within the rules for the most part. Because if you don't stay disciplined, you end up losing money. But if you don't take the courage, you miss the outlier. So that's the story of VC in general. With respect to the US, like I said, more mature ecosystem, so has done well. That same level of maturity hasn't yet arrived in India, but there's been a pretty interesting development. The first crop of VCs in India, I think, were mostly sort of local chapters of global VCs. You had the Lightspeed India, Accel India, and so on. And I think those folks were trying to bring a Western understanding of how VC should operate to India. And for the most part, it did work, but there were significant gaps in that understanding. What we are seeing now is like a significantly new crop of domestic VCs. And I think that's what's super exciting, because these are folks who are not just alone understanding what investing in India, they also understand India more deeply. And I think we are, at that initial stages of truly building a fantastic and vibrant VC ecosystem here.
Any thoughts on how the VC ecosystem in the West is looking at India now? Or has it changed over the past few years?
So the VC ecosystem, from almost all of the folks I speak with, look at India with sort of mixed confusion, is what I would say. And the mixture is with respect to the fact that there's so much happening in India. They have deployed capital, but they have not seen the same kind of returns that they expected. The previous instance in which they deployed capital outside of the US was China, right? And for the most part, they were able to extract a lot of value from the growth of the Chinese economy. That has not yet happened in India for them, so they're a little bit confused. But at the same time, they can see on the ground the tremendous change that is happening, and India is on its way to becoming the 3rd largest economy in the world. So it's like there is nowhere else to deploy capital other than here at this point. Chinese growth is stalling or sputtering at this point. So India is the right place. So they're a little bit confused. And I think the reason for that confusion is, once again, a lack of understanding of fundamentally what India is about. The Chinese economy grew the way it did because it has a very strict, strong, centralized government, which can override pretty much anything and make things happen. India, while most people are not able to sort of clearly understand, is a very large, vibrant, and chaotic democracy. People have a lot of ideas and opinions, and so everything is going to take a little bit longer. But I think the more you commit to India and the more patient you are, I think India will truly deliver the promise. And that's all they really need to do. So that's what I tell my VC friends, is you just need to be a little bit more patient.
Pretty interesting answer. I wasn't expecting this, that a VC will say that there is mixed confusion, and mixed confusion is also good and bad in some ways, I understand. But how do you understand this mixed confusion and the complexities not being in India? Like I keep wondering about this. There are so many US-based VCs which are investing in India, and how does understanding of this complex confusion happen
Well, first and foremost, you have to actually be here. So you have to come visit. So we are of Indian origin. So we obviously have a lot of common understanding of how India works. We have family, we have friends. You know, there are VCs in the US that don't have WhatsApp. And how can you understand India if you don't have WhatsApp, right? So whereas we have had WhatsApp pretty much from day one when everybody knew this is how we are going to communicate. So I think you have to make the effort to understand India. You cannot use your sort of, for lack of a better phrase, Western mindset and say, that's how it is here, so that's how we should be in India, because money is money and this is how. No, money is money, but the ways in which economies change and transmute and how companies get built is different and local. And so the way to understand this confusion is basically to come here, spend a lot more time here, and more importantly, talk to a large variety of people. Because you get, India is truly the giant that is an elephant, right? And so you need a lot of people putting their hands on the elephant to get a sense of what this is. And even I, for all of the knowledge I have, I don't think I have a full appreciation as you have. Where you are living, you're facing the daily wins and challenges that you have. So I think more time here is what is needed. At the same time, I think also, like I said, understanding the fundamental differences between what they were using as their benchmarks, whether it was Silicon Valley or Gen AI or China or whatever, versus how India is going to deliver those returns. I think you need to understand those differences in order to reset or at least correct your expectations for India.
You mentioned we understand it better, but me and Nishay keep talking about that. So we have a customer base from all states of India. And for us, that understanding of how things work in Surat versus an Indore versus a Mysore versus a Bangalore itself is a very complex problem to solve, right? So it's not just people from the outside, but when you are building a product which caters to the mass audience, I think we ourselves keep getting surprised of how diverse India is every day.
Absolutely. And I think that diversity is actually the value of India, because I think when growth happens and it happens in such a robust fashion with so many different people, with so many different problems, challenges, mindsets, and aspirations come together to solve something, that solution looks robust, right? Take, for example, the payment infrastructure that India has developed, right? Doesn't matter if you're in Surat or Indore or Mysore or Bangalore or Visakhapatnam, right? It works.
Yeah.
It works irrespective of language. It works irrespective of location. You're in the mountains of Manipur and it'll still work, right? I think that's what makes those solutions robust. One other thing I wanted to point out, many Western observers, including investors, have been guilty of. Some people have told them India is not, 140 crore people. India is just, 7 or 8 crores in the cities, and that's it. Because those are the affluent people.
Big debate that we have.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the wrong way to think about India. Yes, these are the more affluent people. Yes, they are the ones who will immediately and quickly adopt new technology. But that's not what India is about. India is about, those 400 or 600 million people in between who have the same aspirations and who now through technology are getting that access. So I think that's what's exciting. That's what's missing. And so to go bring it back to the point you were asking about, I think the nuances and the details of that understanding may not be there, but I think the aspirations of somebody in Surat versus somebody in I don't know, Kanyakumari are the same. They want to live a better life. They want better mobility. They want, better housing, clean water. So those things, once you understand, you really start appreciating that maybe a solution in Kanyakumari will not be the same as the one in Surat, but it'll be for the same reason, as in people wanted it that way.
Even the communication, the way you talk to people there, that can be different.
Yes.
But ultimately, as human beings, we are more aspirational. And I think
absolutely
you're very right. So DAU farm of the world, right? That's what we've been talking about, that the monetization potential of a lot of Indian audience is very less. And that's where this is coming from, that we cater to the 7-8%, which is the affluent India. But I think as in when everyone gets on to the digital medium is when we'll realize the entire power of this. No, very, very nicely put. You're saying it's more opportunities unlocking here, which is bringing people back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I think if I were to describe it, I think India is about to go through a once in a generational transition in terms of wealth creation. I mean, if the expectations of this larger country, I think that translation is going to make tremendous opportunities. In fact, I would say if you're anybody anywhere who wants to build, you should be coming to India to build because the opportunities are here.